there was this very long, extensive time period where I was like, well, I have to stay because I'm a teacher and teachers don't make
Yeah.
enough money. And if I,
Huh.
but it was funny because my oldest, who might have been 15 at the time, was like, but weren't you a teacher before we got into this relationship? And we lived by ourselves then. And, and I was like,
Young man.
so he was like, so you basically can't provide this thing for us with your current salary, but we could still live and afford food and be straight, right? And he wasn't wrong. And he said, "Who told you this is what we wanted?"
He
So
wait a
listen, so this whole time I'm staying in a relationship because I think my kids need this nice house and the ability to have this, that, and the other. Whole time they're like, can we just get peace and freedom in our household? Like, we're willing to pay this cost because we know what that looked like. So as soon as I latched on to that and said, okay, he went off to college. I started really mapping out like going, and I told you this before, like I had to buy the house because I knew if I didn't
yeah.
buy the house and I rented the house that I would go back. So I was like, we got to
Ooh,
solidify
okay, I
this
didn't know
thing.
that caveat. I did not. Oh, that's good. I had to
Yeah.
buy it because but you bought your freedom papers. Wait,
I
I'm
bought
so
my
hold
freedom
up,
paper.
hold up. This is so good. This is a whole word right here. You had to buy it. I hope. Okay, this is by the way. This is the piece of content right here. We were just filming after our meeting for folks who are just catching on, but this is the damn piece right here. I had to buy it because I knew if I didn't, I would go back. Are you bought in?
Yes.
That's my question. Are you bought in today? Like, oh, that's so good. Oh, that's so good. Okay, go ahead. Please
Please,
continue.
please buy it because here's
I'm
the
sweat.
thing.
Wow.
The rent I could have gotten out of that lease and I knew it,
Yeah.
right? So like if it's a $1,200 a month lease, all I have to do is let them take my first and last month's rent, like, and that would probably have been a price I was willing to pay for the
Uh-huh.
comfortability that I felt like existed in that bondage, right? But when I signed a mortgage, you
Oh
got to sell the
wow.
house. And
Yeah,
you
you
have
do.
2 to 3 years, I believe it's 2 here, that if you sell the house, they take some of your money because you have to live here for a certain amount of time. So I knew if I buy it, I won't go back and I have to stay for those 2 to 3 years because they're going to take my money and I can't let them have that money. I need that, right? And so
Whoa.
I started looking for the real estate. Eventually, I've looked at probably like 54 houses, if I'm being honest. Eventually, I landed on one, and I was like, I brought him with me, the oldest, and I was like, "Come look at this. Is the basement work? Blah blah blah." He was like, "I don't really care. Just
Yeah.
can we just do it?" So anyway, sign the papers,
It would
all of
be a
this.
hut. You would have been in
Look,
a
a
tent shanty. Yeah.
cardboard box under
Yeah.
the
Fast.
underpass, like for
Fast.
real.
This is real
So
nice. Let's move
yes,
tomorrow.
so literally months after I moved in here, I got a call from one of my friends and she was like, "Hey, the neighboring county needs a first grade teacher. You can work from your living room. And oh, by the way, it's a $30,000 pay increase." And I was like, "Excuse me, what? Excuse me, what's happening?" Yes, I would do that. Got that job, and I think I told you this too, but literally 10 months later was in the workings. I mean, this was a very heightened emotional space, but in the
Absolutely.
workings to get the job that was a coaching job in the education system. And basically, it was a back and forth, but then all of a sudden it was like, oh, and do you want 10 grand more? And so, like, I went from thinking I can't go because I can't financially do this by myself to my son saying we go back to where we were because we would appreciate that freedom, to me saying, now we're
Wow.
going to go do this thing so we can't come back, to me being like, oh, I could pay my mortgage twice now if I
Oh
wanted to.
wow.
Oh,
Carrie,
okay.
like Curry, let's just now for our viewers out there, this is gonna be a real moment. Do
Yeah.
you recognize how all of this shifted into your favor the moment that you made the decision that you were bought into your freedom? That's like,
Yes. Yes.
that's when it happened. I didn't know that. I didn't know the sequence of events. I didn't know
Mm-hmm.
everything was that closely tied together.
Yeah.
It's like I finally boom, and then all of a sudden, and I feel like again, so many of us we think to ourselves like, God lead me to freedom first. So there's a quote that's been my favorite quote for years now, and you know about me and Frederick Douglass. You know about it, but
Yes.
I'm gonna reveal it in a book eventually, right? What's going on with me
Okay.
and Freddie Freddie D, right? My favorite quote of all time, I realized, man, it's always been a Frederick Douglass quote. And he said, for 20 years, I prayed for my freedom. And he said, I wasn't free until I prayed with my feet.
And there it is.
Carrie prayed with her feet. And guess what happened? She was free. That's wild to me. That's wild.
Yes. And the bondage literally disappeared. It wasn't a, like, I'm going to peel it off. Because that's what we think. We think we have to
Yeah.
do something. Like, I have to pull
Yeah.
this bondage up off of me. No, you just got to move. Like,
Yeah.
you
Sometimes that's
can't
the
stand
excuse.
still.
Sometimes that's the excuse we use. Like it's like, oh, I
Yes.
got to. And this, I'm also careful with this because I use the word work a lot, but it's not the same type of work. It's not like you're a
Mm-mm.
construction, like hammering away, like you said, Carrie. It's realizations and letting go. You can have one moment of forgiveness that transforms your life in an instant. You know, it's not 20 years I got to put in the work. Sometimes that'll be the excuse. Oh, I'm still working on me. Like, no, like, are you hiding from what you're actually supposed to be doing? Are you hiding from having that conversation or letting
Yep.
that thing go? You know,
Yep.
today I was like, I'm gonna make this. I'm gonna get back to my tutorial videos. Right, I used to do these little comedy tutorials. I say, okay, I want to welcome everybody to like how to listen because I saw a guy with a book at the coffee shop today, and it said a guide to listening. So I said, okay, welcome everybody to the tutorial on how to listen. So first thing you want to do is shut your damn mouth. Right. So that's step one. Shut your damn mouth. Step two, listen. All right, thank you everybody. Make sure to like, share, like, bruh.
We reading whole books on this? Like,
You,
what is
you get what I'm
happening?
saying? You get what I'm saying? Even the fact that I had to write an entire book on doing me guilt free, it just shows you we need sometimes to hear the message 1,000 ways in 1,000 different formats or whatever in order for us to find, say, you know what? I should just leave.
Well, and that's the thing. Sometimes I think that we try to convolute easy
Mm.
and simple. Just because it's
Ooh.
simple doesn't mean it's going to be easy, but it is
Absolutely
simple.
not.
It literally
Absolutely.
is x plus y equals this. Like, it's that
Exactly.
simple. So,
Formulaic.
even in that situation, leaving is going to be better than staying. Like,
Every time.
there's no, you can't mess that up. Like, it literally exists. Staying is doing this, leaving is
Mm.
going to provide this freedom. So how do you
Mm.
leave? You leave by finding a place to go. How do you prevent yourself from coming back? You find a place to go where the contract is so heavily laden in
Yeah.
legal that you can't go back. So it's simple. That doesn't mean it was easy. It doesn't mean that the day that I packed up my stuff, I wasn't in shambles crying, right? Like, that still exists. It was hard, but
Yeah.
it wasn't, it didn't have all of these extra steps.
It
And that's what
wasn't
we do. We'll be
complex.
like, what'd you say?
It wasn't complex.
It's not. And that's the thing.
Yeah.
That's what we'll do. We'll take, all right, I need to go. I need to find a place that I can't come back. It's two
Mm.
things. And we'll go.
Wow.
But how can I go and where am I going to get the money to go? And we'll
Yeah.
literally create this entire encyclopedia book. You too young for that, but they existed.
Girl, don't even. I call myself the human encyclopedia. I be knowing random things. Britannica. Don't play with me. Don't play. The beard growing nice. Don't play with me.
But we'll create this entire encyclopedia, volumes of encyclopedia on this two-step process to prevent ourselves from doing it. It's literally talking yourself out of it. Because if I make the process more difficult, then I can tell myself that there's a real reason why I'm not going.
Whoa. I don't know why those words any different. Talking yourself out of it hit me very different right there. You're literally just trying to talk yourself out of it. So even okay, I'm curious. When you were going to your friends or people who knew better at the time, any like close relationships that you had, were you looking for them to just justify where you were? Like what were you actually looking for? Like during those years that you didn't make the move, what were you looking for when you asked for advice?
So I had this uncanny ability of knowing who to go to get what I needed, right?
You still
So
do.
that's why I said it, because I know you would know that, yes, I
Uh-huh.
still do. So, like, if I wanted the real, kind of like when I come to you, like, I want the
Yeah.
real, like, no, that's not what's really going on. Let's unpack this. Like, I'm coming to
Yeah.
you, right? So, like, if
Mm.
I wanted the uncut, unfiltered, I'm going to my sister because she would be
Ooh.
like, "You're doing this, and he's this, and you're this, and here it is. Boom. I told you this from jump, literally."
Dang.
Um,
Wow.
and shout out to her because she is the all-time best person at reading character I've ever met in my entire life. I'm
He
talking
just sees
20
it on
minutes,
off rip.
20 minutes, done. And be right. It has not, listen, has not failed once. To the point where
Forensic.
she was like, when you date again, I'll do the interview. Like
No, she's
that,
not. Yeah. Me too. Me too. Same as
right? I was
me.
like, you should sell this because it
Hmm.
really is a gift. Like,
No,
what are you doing?
actually, no. We're gonna talk to Sis
Yes,
about that. By the way, I'm dead
yes.
ass serious. Don't get me
Um,
on the line with her.
right?
Yeah, she
So
has
I would
seven
go to
courses
her
next
if I
week.
wanted that, right? I would
Hmm.
go to my dad if I wanted um stern but coddling at the same time,
Interesting.
right? I
Yeah.
would go to my mom if I wanted somebody to gossip with me about all the things the person was doing wrong.
Ooh, that's good. Yes. Okay, that's good.
Right? So I
Yeah.
knew the role that of those people existed in life as, so I knew what they were going to give me when I went to them. So when I here's what's super interesting.
I'm
When
taking
I
notes
was
right now.
about, what do you
I'm
say?
taking notes. I'm taking notes
Oh,
right now.
you got the
What
notes
would you
app
call
out.
that? What would you call that labyrinth of individuals? Like who you go to for what? I'm just gonna
I
call
think
it.
it's the inner facets of yourself, right? I
Oh,
think
so
it's
interface. No, you gonna get deep on me. I want like the simplified, like who I go to for which response. I'm just gonna write that right now for which response. That idea right there has some unpacking. Damn,
oh
you broke
yeah,
that down.
totally.
Okay, continue, please. Continue.
But I'm just going to
So,
say this one thing. It's who it's okay, so the inner voice that I hear when I'm at my biggest critic is this person. So if
mhm.
I need a critic, I'm going to that conditioning came from them. So I'm going to go to them if I need a critic for someone else cuz they're my critic in my head. If I
Or they
need somebody
represent
who's
that person, the original one. If they ain't here no more. Yeah,
100%.
yeah.
If I need somebody who's going to do this and this, that's the voice that's in my head. So I'm going directly to that person who literally did the conditioning in me to get that same voice, to validation for that same voice.
Hold up, Carrie. You just reconstructed some things for me. Hold up. Who you went to for in I said like who was your inadequacy plug?
There it is. There it is. And so oddly enough, when I went through that whole process, two people knew.
Mm,
Only two. The 22-year-old who was
yeah,
not 22 at the time, I think he was
yeah.
19. Um, because he has no cut cards. He's going to tell you
Mm,
exactly like it is.
yeah,
He might
yeah,
say no disrespect, but he's also
yeah.
going to tell you just like it is. He don't play.
Fact.
And then I had my dad, right?
Yeah.
So he's going to be stern, but also coddle a little. And
Hmm.
that's because I knew I needed somebody to say the real, but also
Yeah.
I might need a hug. I did not
Yeah.
tell. I did not tell my sister because I felt like she was going to be like, told you so. Not
Yeah.
that
It's just
that's
gonna
the
be
type
cut
of
and dry.
person she is, but I didn't
Facts.
want that. And I
Yeah.
didn't go to my mom because I felt like any type of don't ever get married type of that negative
Mhm.
vibe was going to make me wallow in self-pity. And I didn't want to
Ah,
go there.
okay. It would just drown you as opposed to empower. Okay,
100%.
that's
So
good.
what are your outcomes? All right, so now make your agenda. My outcomes are to do this and to be empowered in doing this. So my
Mm.
agenda is go to the person with no cut cards and go to the person who's going to hug you a little because they're going to get you to this outcome. So
Damn.
that's what
Nah,
I
but
did.
you just freed me a little bit more in turning right now when you said because like I know this concept logically and through reason is again we go to or people represent those aspects of our internal conversation, but you just made it very real for me because obviously you know what's going on in my personal life, right?
Hmm.
And I said, oh my god, that's why it was so easy to let go of a certain situation because that voice is no longer in my head.
Didn't
I
need
don't
it
have that
anymore.
that
Not good,
that,
right?
that track is no longer playing, so it's like oh replacement. Now you might have another track that's playing talking about well are you really good enough for blah blah, and now you might be looking for somebody to justify or to play that role for a little bit. But this one, that main track that was playing of unworthiness and undeservingness and pretend, oh that one's gone.
It left.
Wow, wow. Okay, So, man, see, this is why I know. I ask you one question, and we're gonna get a sermon. We're gonna get everything in there. I was like, I wonder if she has some homegirls. She is the homegirl who was in a situation where, wow, okay. So then, when you actually ended up making that decision, wait, did you step out of the victim mentality in the process, or was it after? Because I think that's another one for me where I'm like, okay, chicken or the egg, right? Is it like you finally come to a place where you're like, damn, like I have this much power, I leave, or are you in fight or flight, leaving, and
Mm.
then you know what I'm saying?
No, I get what you're saying, and here's how you're gonna resonate with this because you know all of my stories and the things that I talk to you about. Here's how
Mm,
I did it. I empowered myself professionally, and then
yeah,
the personal came along. So I said, I'm going to go out here and be a boss professionally, right?
yeah,
I'm going to do that.
uh-huh.
And it was in the current role that I was in, still making the money that I was making, but I was going to
Yeah.
be really good at it because I
Oh
was going to
wow.
use that to build my confidence, right? In
Yeah.
doing that, I empowered myself and then got more money. When that part happened, you couldn't tell me nothing on the other end. Right? So it was
Interesting.
like I used the
Yeah.
one to pull me to the other because there was still, even when I was operating in that boss perspective professionally, there was the
Mm,
victim mentality in the personal realm.
mm,
Like now I have to do this
mm.
by myself again. Now, all of that narrative was happening. But once I stepped into the freedom of, you don't need anybody to support you financially. You got this, girl. Then it was, oh wait, you don't need any of that either. You're not a victim. You're about to just walk. You're just about to go and walk into this just like you did professionally. You're good. So
That's
that's,
incredible how you're able to draw those parallels and use this as a springboard into the other. And is that
well, and I
something
think
you?
we do that naturally, right? We split
Uh,
ourselves. There's this
yeah,
like outside of the house version, and then there's
yeah,
this inside of the house version. And it's not being fake, it's just how vulnerable can I be, right? Like when
absolutely.
I'm out into the world, I can't be as vulnerable as I am inside of my house. So it's like living as two people almost. Not that we
Mhm.
have to, but we do that. So
Yeah,
I knew that one was going to be easier than the other. Like it's going to be
yeah.
easier for me to make a way because I don't feel like a victim at all in my professional career. I know what
Yeah.
I'm worth here. So I'm going to go make that be the catalyst for this one to pull up close to it.
So then my last question, because we've been on here for 2 hours. I know they didn't get the 2 hours, but we got the 2 hours, and you got a life and everything like that, which is
Every
dope.
time.
So
Just
happy for you.
also,
Every
by the
time.
way, everyone,
It's always,
every
yeah. Every
time.
time we talk, it's gonna be 2 hours. Like that's what it's gonna be. That's why we start recording. By the way, is like we just said, all right, these conversations got to be out in the public. So I was gonna ask, how do obviously you from the perspective of a woman, and I know like there's like a counter aspect of the male part of this. How as a woman do you, let's say, take the path that you took, right, of stepping into that boss mentality or boss up in a level, but still not use it as a defense to harden your heart? You get what I'm
Mm.
saying? Because I've heard on two sides, like there's a boss and it's like, yeah, you know who you are, you know your worth, but then there's also this boss's defensiveness is like, you know what I mean? That's like I'm going to show you that I'm better than you. I'm going to show you that I'm this thing. So it's actually not really about self. It's about proving to the world that I am this thing. How do you?
I think it was because even then I knew the true definition of being humble, right? And so sometimes
Mhm.
we think that the true definition of being humble is like I'm not worthy, there's this like suppression of this whole, and I knew the
Yeah.
true definition of it, which was to operate in your gifts in
Mm.
such a way that you know this assignment is yours and you're
Oh
not
wow.
worried about what everyone else thinks, and so you're not comparing yourself. So you
That's a
don't
bar.
walk into the building and go, I'm a better teacher than her, right?
Yeah.
Humility and being humble says, I'm the best teacher that these kids need. It's
Oh,
not
that's
me
so
comparing
good.
myself to the other teacher. It's me being the best version of me for the audience that's in that space. And I think because of that, there was never a feeling that I needed to prove myself to anyone else or be in
Mm.
comparison with anyone else. The only person I was proving anything to was me. So it was
Yeah.
like, if you can do it here, you can do it anywhere, right? And
That's so
so
good.
I think that because of that, because if I'm being honest, in that space, no one else existed. I
Yeah.
already cleared out all the cobwebs of the people that would speak a narrative that I didn't need, right? I only
Mm,
had these two people who were even speaking into me at all, right? And so because I cleared out all of those cobwebs, nothing else existed. I literally just had blinders on because I was like, this is about me being the best version of me. It's not
yeah.
about me competing with the me that I was 10 years ago and being like, you got to get your crap together. Like, what's wrong with you? No, it was,
Yeah.
where are you right now? And how can you be the best version of you today? And that's not going to be the same version of this person over here. It's just going to be the best version of you. And I think once I finally stepped into that, um, because the blinders were on, it wasn't a I'm going to be ugly to everyone else. It was a I'm going to show everyone else how I did this.
That's so deep, Carrie. Like I'm hearing this, and you've actually helped to make this transition in my head of, again, there's like the boss girl mentality or like the boss girl kind of moniker, right? And I say it's almost like the equivalent of like high value male or whatever the hell, titles, right? The alpha male. It's like, I think it's like the equivalent to me. It's
Mm-hmm.
like both of this thing of like peacocking or trying to show the world I'm something. And the thing that's given me like, Auntie Effie, obviously I have a relationship with her, is she was the first exemplification of what like an actual female boss looked like, because she was literally that. And she never once told me I'm a boss, like I'm a girl boss, I'm this and that. She never once told me, right? And I understood, just being in the streets, that the person who tells you like I'm the realest, that is usually the fakest person. Or the one who tells you I'm a this, I'm a that, I'm a this, like that's usually the person's like they're none of those things, but they need to convince you in order to convince them, right?
Correct, because one is rooted in insecurity and the other one is rooted in productivity, right? And those are
Ooh,
two different things.
that whole entire part. So for me, you really did something for me, and I think it's going to transition well to anybody who gets to listen into this. Is, see, I said gets to listen, not please don't, not yeah. If you have the opportunity to hear these words, bless your life. You will have a realization that, damn, it's like, okay, where am I operating from? Because it could be such a fine line when you're not tapped into those nuances, right? And you haven't done the work that you find in one of Carrie's courses or something of that nature, to just like distinguish, okay, like I'm going to the gym and I'm doing this and I'm bossing up and I got my glow up, but am I really doing this for me, or am I still doing it because I want homegirl to be like, damn, look at what he became, you know?
Yeah, and
Am I,
that's
is
why
there
that's
still a
why it's
part of
super
me?
important to get rid of those narratives first. Because if you don't, you're going to be out here
Mm,
trying to prove to somebody that you've bossed up, right? Once you get rid of those narratives first, and you're only talking to the people who are the sensible people, and
yeah.
that's the inner voice that you have at that moment, you're only doing it for you because
Damn.
those narratives don't exist anymore.
So is that stuff that you cover in your course and your coaching program?
Yes. So there's like a
Uh,
huge part of it that's just about allowing and understanding your inner workings and how
uh,
that is really what you see pouring out. And I think, there's a huge part in there that really talks about this inner yielding. And
yeah.
those stories are in that part of it where it's just like, okay, you're doing this thing, but how are you yielding to what's going on inside of you? So,
And
yes.
what's the name of the
And
course? What's the name of the program? Can you just give us a little lead in so we could put the description in, below, or
yeah,
put the title
so it
description below?
is healing from a toxic relationship and stepping
Hmm.
into powerful peace. And
Beautiful.
the course is really just about, after you're going after you've gone through a toxic relationship, is really just that conversation that we had earlier. It's about
Mm.
thinking about your space, your surroundings, and yourself from a place of emerging in this powerful peace, as opposed to I'm the victim of this situation. It's taking that model of focusing on the other person and why did they do this to me, and flipping it on its head and saying, why did I allow this, and how am I going to prevent that from happening in the future, and just exist in a state of peace.
That's so damn good. Okay. And if I know anything, you're the only person that I could ever say needs to be teaching this. There's a whole lot of people out there with a whole lot of messages, and I say, yeah, they might have years, they might have this and that, but you're the one who actually embodies this like through and through. I know that without a shadow of a doubt. And the people who actually get to be a part of your course and your program, they will get to freedom. I don't know about everybody. Like, I'm just being genuine. I don't know about everybody else's stuff. I really don't. You might end up
Yeah.
right where you are. You might have taken a whole 360, right? Or you might go a little further, but still be in that space of victimhood. But for you, I know because I get to have that relationship with you, is every single time I talk to you, it's like evolution, evolution, evolution. And I know that's who you are through and through. And coming
Hmm.
from where you came from, it's like, I don't think there's anybody who can really truly compare their situation and be like, well, my situation was just so much crazier. And it's like, nah, like you can. That freedom is for you. It doesn't matter how
Hmm.
bad your bondage and your slavery was before. That freedom is for you. So, thank you guys for tuning into our conversation. I didn't even know when it switched from our meeting to conversation, but we're gonna get it out to the people regardless.